All right, so explain the pros and cons of the Columbian Exchange. Within your response, describe the necessity for European colonization. All right. And finally, describe what mercantilism is. What? All right. Okay. So for time's sake here, I was going to have an assignment, but I'm just going to go over it as a whole because I know I reviewed it. I talked about this political cartoon before. We'll get to mercantilism real quick. So pros, cons, Columbian Exchange. Real quick, let's talk about the pros. What do we got? What are some good things here that are being shared from the new world to the old world? Awesome.
Um, there's like a lot of resources to help other countries.
Yeah, good, right? So when you're looking about a lot of the resources here, especially crops and different types of food items from the new world to the old world, what are some examples? What are some examples that I know I showed? Naomi, go ahead.
This is from New World to
Yeah, what's being exchanged from the new world to the old world?
So sugar, tobacco.
Good. Yeah, right. So I know I had turkeys up there. I know I showed a little bit about tobacco for sure. Indigo, cotton. These are going to be big cash crops moving forward that the colonies are going to focus on when it comes to establishing their means of their economy. All right, good. What about the old world to the new world? What are some good things here? Cal? All right, yeah, good job, right? So when it comes to Christianity, religion, that's one of the big ones here. I'm glad you mentioned that. Good. So it's not all just food items, it's not all just, let's say, like livestock, with horses, cattle, but also religion. That's a good one. Chase.
Disease.
Oh, now you're getting right to the negatives, huh? Yeah, so disease, sickness. I know I mentioned about smallpox, typhoid fever, measles, man, yellow fever, it's wild. So there are a lot of negatives here also that happens during this Columbian Exchange. Eventually, let me know the triangular trade. And what are some other negatives? We just watched a video. Luna?
It's like,
The slave trade, right? So as these European countries are dominating the New World, while they're utilizing the natives as slaves in their own land, right? As a lot of them are dying, 90% of them because of disease and sickness, well, they need that labor force. So obviously the European countries, they go down to Africa. And what they do is exchange goods like armor, like weapons, these different types of muskets even, right? To exchange for labor, for slaves. So these African kings, these African warlords, right? They want the new forms of weaponry so that they can dominate the continent, right? And they exchange from rival, right? They take rival tribesmen, right? In order to get these weapons, in order to get this armor, these manufactured goods from Europe. Obviously, the slaves then through the Middle Passage make their way across. And the video explained, and I know I talked about it last chapter, about what these captains of these ships would do to the slaves here to make sure that they wouldn't fight or rebel against them. What would they have them do? Luna.
that's what dance.
Yeah, the dance, right? And have them fight, wrestle for long periods of time here to make sure that they're fatigued, make sure that they won't fight up against these captains of these ships. And also I mentioned about the living conditions underneath the deck of the ship, brutal, right? So when it comes to the bathroom, well, you just kind of went where you lay. Right, I know I showed a picture of the coffin position too, where many of the African slaves would literally be elbow to elbow, laying right next to each other, on top of each other in many cases, packed underneath the deck. So this dehumanization process where you're taking the human aspects, the emotions of people and throw them away, right? And treating these people as livestock, as lesser, right? As subhumans, right? This was a big process within this Middle Passage, Atlantic slave trade. Anyway, I just want to mention that real quick. Last thing, mercantilism. What is mercantilism? What does this mean? I know I showed you a political cartoon, which I'm going to put that up right now, but what does it mean, Jason? Yeah, good job, right? So as we're looking at these European countries, the goal here is to try to be the strongest. The goal here is try to be the most dominant around the world. The only way that these European countries can do that is if they colonize these lands, as they extract the resources and goods, materials from these lands and apply it to their own marketplace, right? With that is going to bring an enormous amount of wealth, right? Riches, gold, you name it. And we already talked about it. With wealth comes what? With wealth comes what? Elena? Power. Good. So with colonization, right, with this mercantilism here, this is a good political cartoon emphasizing this. I wanted to talk about it a little bit more in detail, but run a little in time. But this is one of the key drives here moving forward with these European countries. Guess what? We didn't even get to the Industrial Revolution yet. So as this Industrial Revolution kicks off, right, they're going to need more resources and goods, and they're going to have to expand into these colonies, these other places around the world, and really, really show their power, their authority. So we'll talk about it here moving forward. This idea of social Darwinism, the strongest will survive. We'll apply the theory of evolution to these countries in Europe. And you got to try to modernize. You got to try to continue to grow and evolve. And unfortunately, colonize these new lands in order to adapt. Anyway, Calvin, you mentioned a good aspect here. Christianity, religion, that's one of the positives here that is going to these other lands. Right? To say that it's all negative, it does look like a lot of negative, let's face it, right? But with religion, with Christianity, expanding, you gotta imagine that's some good things. All right. Anyway, I'll give you guys credit here for this assignment I had. I know I ran through it pretty quick, but we'll see you guys later. Have a good one.